It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Welcome in, Sports by the Book. I'm Jeff Parles. Contrary to reports out there, Alex, I'm not in on the Lakers job. Not in on it.
And I'm Alex White, and I am in on
you
the
are
Lakers
in on
job.
it. Okay, all right. I knew one of us was up for it. The big news coming down this morning, nothing confirmed, but Dan Hurley seems to be very much in the mix for the Lakers job the day after Shams Charania reported that J.J. Redick was getting the job. But no one knows what's going on over there.
Very interesting.
Yeah, very bizarre. On the show today, little Family Matters. Usually a Family Matters in a corner over there with Ann and Drew Dog. No, Drew Dog's off today. Ann is a well-deserved week off. Kenny White will be here.
That's right.
25 minutes from now.
My opening line was going to be that I'm a third-generation sports bettor. To go with that he will be on the show, and that is who I learned from. But I liked your intro better, so I had to go follow your lead.
I can't say I'm any generation sports bettor on my end. So you got me beat on that one for sure, Alex. All right, swoosh it. Let's go. Swoosh it. Swoosh it. Swoosh it. There we go. Good job, Sean. Swoosh. Starting five here for today. Number one. Hey, we did it. We finally did it. We're there. We're there. Game one. We waited a week. It's finally starting on the NBA Finals. Game one in Boston tonight. The Mavericks taking on the Celtics, 6.5, 216 here in game one. You know, there was an article, I forget who wrote it, but I saw remnants of it today where Jeff Sherman in the article, Alex, said that this was a month ago, that Boston would have been a $4 favorite in this series. Instead, we've been sitting at minus 210 on the series all week long. Very interesting. And again, showing how these are living documents all the time, power ratings.
You're right. It would have been that number. That sounds like the correct number, too. And I had some thoughts that I want to share with you when we really break down this NBA and comparing it to football a little bit. So I want to get your thoughts on that. Number two, Commissioner Cup games continue. 2 on the board today. Should be fireworks in Atlanta. New York Liberty take on the Dream. They are a 6.5-point favorite. Total in that one, 166. And as we have been documenting, favorites in these Commissioner Cup games, 8-2 against the spread.
The favorites, as you mentioned, 8-2. Oh, they didn't cover one last night. So
the Aces.
Yeah. Well, even though A'ja Wilson pretty good at this basketball thing,
I would say
to put it very lightly there. How about the Dodgers? How about the Pirates? Actually, the better way to put it. Pirates looking to sweep the Dodgers. By the way, Frankie Fungo trivia coming back today on the show and. On Punchlines, that is. And Ryan McCormick and I have a great list of Frankie Fungo trivia. By the way, Eddie Elchek also will be on the show today at noon, 12:15. Right, Ryan? 12:15, 12:30. 12:30 now for Eddie Elchek on Punchlines. But that's not in our starting five. The Dodgers being a minus 180 favorite is against the Pirates. Bueller and Brady Falter, who's been much better than expected so far this year for Pittsburgh. 9 the total. Plus 165 on the take back on the Buccos here, Alex.
Yeah, if you like the Dodgers, you have to lay $1.80 in that one, trying to avoid the sweep, like you said. Great tease for Punchline, so that should be a great show right here on the South Point Studio YouTube channel. So just stick around for a little bit. Number 4, Women's College World Series continues in softball. Oklahoma takes game 1, and now they are $1.45 favorite versus Texas in game 2.
And then number 5. Tease for our show. 20 minutes from now, Kenny White will join us. The College World Series resumes, Super Regionals. Kenny will have thoughts on basically all of them, even if there's no plays. Maybe some leans mixed in there, and also Kenny's thoughts on the NBA Finals beginning tonight in Beantown as well, coming in 20 minutes from now. Also, by the way, big news in the studio. Sean is bringing tea and crumpets on Saturday in honor of the Mets and Phillies playing in London, Alex.
Very good.
I know. John? No?
Oh.
No, I thought I discussed it before. But, hey, that will be, talk about it on Sunday. We talked about it a little bit yesterday because that we saw it earlier this year when we had the games in Mexico City. You're going to have some more international games, and you see the bonko totals in those international games because of the ballparks and not elevation of London in other ones, but London, that ballpark is just set up as a as a launching pad so far.
Mets playing better baseball as of right now. Should be a good
Congratulations. They won
series.
3 straight. They swept the Nats. How bad are the Nats if that's happening, Alex? That's the better question.
Quite a few sweeps this week in Major League Baseball. But the big news, as you mentioned, we made it. We finally have NBA back. And I was on Steve Cofield's show yesterday and kind of talked about it with him. It was kind of fun having a week leading up to it. You know, we always have 2 weeks leading up to the NFL and make it this big production. And now we have it here with the NBA. Whether you liked it or not, you got it.
Steve Cofield, of course, local radio here in Las Vegas. If you're joining us from outside of Las Vegas, Alex was on there, and we're running an advertisement on local ESPN radio with something Alex White said that I won't bring to the studio.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh, well, I'll save it for later. Maybe I'll ask Kenny later. Maybe I'll do that.
Okay.
Totally catch you off guard, even though you know exactly what it is. All right, so let's go to this tonight. Game 1. We're finally here. Mavs, Celtics. Let's start with the total.
Yep.
Let's start with the total here because this total, thanks to a week of waiting, has progressively been bet up. Started at 214.5. Sat there until 2 days ago. Went to 215. Now that we're at the day of the game, we've now moved another point. We're now to 216 with a stop at 215.5 mixed in there, Alex. So I'll just ask you. We've seen in this postseason, early in series, we have seen more overs. Later in series, historically, as we know, even though the totals usually go down later in series, we still see historically more unders. But this is one of those where I think the 216 is right. I thought the 214.5, all right, you could justify potentially going over that. I think 216 is right where this is supposed to be now. I think the market, with a week at play, has corrected itself to the right number.
I agree with you on that. I do think 216 feels better there. I actually gave out going over 214.5 on punchlines yesterday, so I am on that over. I think we're just going to see a lot of offense in this first game, especially. Both teams are very good from the perimeter. Dallas really good from that corner 3, and then we know Boston's been the best 3-point shooting team this entire year. So looking at the 2 regular season games, I know you can only take so much, but still, I mean, we went over 237.5. We saw a 240.5 that one did stay under, but still went over this 216 here. No, it's the playoffs. I know you have to adjust, but both teams are just so good offensively, going to be feeling each other out this first game. And then they'll make adjustments moving forward. And then I'm looking forward to that. I hope this one flies over so the books adjust this total up and then we can go under at the appropriate time.
So I'll just ask you this, Alex, with just the way that these two teams have played in this postseason, where, look, Dallas made their money on the defensive side. Minnesota didn't know what to do against them with their offense. Honestly, Dallas just really controlled that whole series. Defensively against Oklahoma City, they shut them down when they had to at the end of games. I just am curious here where you bring this up. Hey, maybe we'll look for a better number in game. It's honestly the best way to play all these NBA games at this point, in my opinion, is waiting in game more so than anything. But I just wonder where, let's say we get like a 207 here. Let's say we come in like 10 points under. I just wonder how this market adjusts in game 2. And then that would be the, hey, let's fly in. Let's go against the grain. Let's fly in against what happened in game 1. Or let's say we get a game in the 230s here and this aggressively goes up too much. That's really what I'm looking for more so. I'm looking for what happens here in game 1 to impact my opportunities in game 2 to take advantage of the total in that game.
And it is a great way to play it. And you can also do that here with the side as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really tough. I do agree with that number completely. And I guess the market does too. It hasn't moved much at all. So if the Mavs don't cover this one, I mean, they have been very good on the road this whole postseason. You could definitely look to take them with the points or even money line in game 2. But I think the Mavericks are going to struggle a little bit. I mean, this is a different animal than they have even been against, because in their previous series, they've kind of picked their guys that they just said, okay, you can take your shots. They can't do that with Boston. I mean, Boston has so many weapons and so many guys who can shoot from the three. So I think they're going to be a little in over their head, and their defense is going to take a step back.
So for this, just looking at the side real quick, like you said, we really have not had much movement. The hook has gone on. That's the movement here. Gone from 6 to 6.5. I really am in a scenario here where I think Dallas is the more live underdog than Edmonton is in these two championship series across hockey and basketball here. But for game one, I just wonder, and I know Dallas is 3-0 so far, or excuse me, 2-1. Let me try that again. The only game one they've won so far in this postseason was game one in Minnesota. They did not look good against the Clippers in game one. They did not look good in Oklahoma City. To the point where I thought, whoa, okay, Oklahoma City, they're here, they belong. That's the side to look at here. But I just wonder, longer layoff, does that help Dallas here in this spot, as opposed to what we saw where, they had a longer layoff than Minnesota in the last series. They had but they were a shorter layoff against Oklahoma City, and then everyone at the same time off against the Clippers. With
Luka kind of being banged up and injured throughout this postseason, I would imagine that it would definitely help them. Here's the thought in the comparison that I wanted to run by you, and I apologize. It's a little more sports talk radio than sports betting, but it can help.
Go for it.
Looking at, so there's a hesitation with Boston, even though we know that they are the better team, right? And it kind of reminds me of our Super Bowl matchup here. If you compare the 49ers and the Chiefs, roster by roster, the Niners were the better team, right? I mean, That's what the line said. That's what we all knew. Okay. But the best player was on the underdogs team with the Chiefs, and that's Patrick Mahomes. And he also had a teammate that has won before. And I think that is what we are seeing with Dallas, too. I mean, we know Luka is the best player on the court. And then he's also got Kyrie, who has been there before and won before. So I think that's the hesitation. My concern is, does Boston have that will to win, almost like that dog in them, which we have already seen the Mavs and their tough series. And I think that's why people say it's such a cakewalk. And Boston hasn't really had the struggle. And we haven't seen that. A little bit from Jaylen Brown, I would say, in that Pacer series, but not as much as we have seen with Luka and this Mavs team.
You know, it's an interesting point. And, you think obviously more times than not, just kicking it back to the Super Bowl, which, by the way, feels a lot longer than just 4 months ago at this point. It was less than 4 months ago here in Vegas. It's in that the quarterback obviously is such a huge influence over the game that it's then that, all right, an elite quarterback can swing it. And in the end, Mahomes ended up swinging that game towards Kansas City. But when you're playing a 5-on-5 sport like the NBA, the best players obviously have every bit as big of an impact as a Patrick Mahomes would have on an NFL game. I think there is credence to this, where more times than not, you see the best player and his team win playoff series in the NBA. You see that more times than not, or the player that happens to be the best player in that series. Now, it's close enough, and look, I think with the Jason Tatum debate that's out, like, it's all nonsense for the most part. But there is something to be said of that. I personally think Jason Tatum is a little bit overrated. I think Jason Tatum is one of the 15 to 12 best players in the league. I don't think he's on the Luka level. I don't think he's on the Jokic level. I don't think he's on, I'm not even sure if he's on the LeBron level at this point, even though LeBron's going into year 21. But could Jason Tatum be the best player in this series? Oh, heck yeah, he could be. He's more than capable of being the best player in this series. I think you'd even argue Jaylen Brown could end up being the best player in this series. So it's a little convoluted. It's an interesting look at it. If we're going strictly off best player, then Dallas plus 190 is a good bet based off that to win the series. But you've also seen the market starting to play Boston. Like I said earlier, Jeff Sherman saying that this would have been minus 400 if this was 3 weeks ago. That's why I still lean to Boston overall in this series. I just think they're still in the end much better. And look, could Luka just go all world and win this series and win the MVP and take that next step to hey, he's the best player on planet Earth right now? Absolutely. But I still lean that the better team with home court finds a way in this series. So that's why I lean to Boston. Tonight, I don't have anything. I think everything's spot on. You made me bet something pre-flop from a traditional sense. I would take the 6.5, but I'm not really strong on that, Alex.
The other point to make here is it is a best of 7, and that changes a lot compared to the Super Bowl where it's just one game. So, and I like that point you made. Can Jason Tatum be the best player in the series? Yes, he is capable, and so is Jaylen Brown. So that makes me feel better because I am on the Celtics as well in the series.
You have the current price on that sheet from Chris and Company, of course, available behind us. You have the MVP odds, which thank you. Right now, Jason Tatum's still sitting at -130, which makes a whole boatload of sense. The other props available as well. You can bet, and this has only available until game start. Game 1 starts tonight here in Vegas, which is around 20 to 6 here in Vegas time. You have, of course, the opportunity to bet the parlay, the Celtics with the Panthers, the Celtics with the Oilers, which are the two favorites, and then the Mavs with the Panthers, and then the Mavs with Edmonton, which after seeing something on Twitter today, I might actually go with something Dallas related because someone did something I didn't want to see. Let's just go with that. Ryan's shaking his head, know exactly what I'm talking about. But you know, I will say this, and I just go back to what I was saying earlier in the week. If you can find Kyrie Irving still north of 20 to 1, I still think there is enough juice to take a shot here. Now, if you think Dallas is going to win the series and you can still find Luka north of 2 to 1, I would take them both. Because there's no way that a non-Luka Kyrie MVP can happen if Dallas wins this series. There's no way. And I still would lean towards Luka winning the MVP, but that number is just so juicy. There's 22 to 1 out there. There's 20 to 1 out there. Chris and Company have 18 to 1 behind us. But
I just think what Steve Jones said yesterday was
loud.
so spot
I know it's
on.
so loud. It's so loud. And that also, by the way, Drew Holiday 100 to 1, still standing out. I don't know if he can get there, but that feels like a very good dart to possibly throw it as well, Alex.
Where's Jaylen Brown right now?
Right now,
I'm
Chris and
almost
Company
leaning
at
more.
13 to 2. That's plus 650, which seems right.
Yeah. But I mean, he really did step up big.
He was awesome in the Indiana series.
So that keeps it going. But yeah, I also do really like that parlay where you can pick the winner of both and tie them together here.
I still think I lean the chalk, even though I'm getting closer to getting scared off of it. Let's just go with that for sure. Is there anything else? Because again, there's a lot of ways to bet this. You could take the Mavs plus the 1.5 if you wanted to, Alex, which I don't think is a bad bet. I do think this is a long series. You could take a exact length of a series as well, where again, over 5.5 games is $1.65. That's probably a reasonable bet as well. There are so many ways to possibly play this thing if you want to take some shots here, Alex.
So I am on Luka for a triple-double in this first game.
So game 1.
For game 1, plus 360. I'm curious, and you might see it there. What is his double-double? What I know you have to lay a price, but I do think that's a great bet too, if you're not afraid to lay a little bit here. But yeah, a lot of great ways to play this. And then, of course, we had we talked about most points, most rebounds, most assists in this series. Luka's the favorite for most of those, except for rebounds, which Jason Tatum is the favorite in that one. But should be fun. Should be a good series.
Minus 210 on a double-double. So you're laying $2 plus.
I think that's okay still.
Yeah. There are worse favored bets to be made. The Porzingis angle of this series, which we haven't mentioned yet, which I want to at least just bring up right now, because again, it's strange with Boston. Boston's 12-2 in this postseason. Normal circumstance, we would say, a team that won 64 in the regular season goes 12-2 through the Eastern Conference playoffs. Like, all right, we're dealing with an all-time great team. It's not what the thought is. It's like, all right, they handled their business against teams that were battered with injuries. Again, if Jimmy Butler was there, who knows? Maybe Miami series looks a little different. But it is very interesting to see with Zinger back, just what impact right away is he able to make? If he is able to make the big impact, that's another reason I do like Boston in this series. We haven't seen Porzingis play. If he's healthy, that's an extra dimension that Dallas will struggle with both sides of the basketball, both offensively and defense.
And he's a huge part of that team, and he hasn't been out for that long. So I don't think
a little under a month now, yeah.
I don't think it'll take that long for an adjustment. Of course, there will be, and they'll probably play less minutes today in this first game, but then I think it'll be a great impact for them.
You want to go to the W real quick, Alex,
Yep.
today? 2 games, Commissioner's Cup, both on the Eastern Conference side. Chicago on the road in the D.C. to take on the Mystics. Mystics still looking for that ever-elusive first win of the season for them. 3.5, 155.5 the total. Down from 156 on this game. Just moved in the recent past here, Alex.
So it's really tough because, there are professional sharp bettors that have been betting WNBA for a long time. So these numbers do move pretty quickly. Everything I liked overnight is gone. So I did grab the 4.5 with the Mystics because, yes, they have not won yet, but they have been very competitive in these games. And while the sky has improved, I think that's a little bit of an overreaction there. I don't love the 3 or 3.5. Maybe wait for an in-game to get a better number there. Lean to the under. I think you're still okay, even though that is moving down there. And Chicago Sky kind of decided that they are going to be the villains of the league so far this year.
Yeah. It's again curious to see how they handle the more attention, because they're going to get it because of everything that happened last weekend in Indianapolis, which you can say self-inflicted for sure. But look, by the way, I like the Mystics outright today. I think they get there finally on the board. The last team without a win, they get on the board tonight outright against Chicago. And then the other game is the Liberty. It hasn't been perfect for the Liberty. Has not been without a few bumps so far to begin the year. But look, the Liberty still the clear second team. I know the Sun are 9-0, but again, Connecticut still hasn't played either New York or Las Vegas yet. They're 8-2, even with the quote unquote issues they've had so far. The Liberty still one of the best. Still look really good. They're 6.5 tonight in Atlanta, 166. The Dream, of course, upset the Aces last week. So trying to beat both teams that were in the WNBA Finals a year ago.
They did. They beat the Aces, and then they laid an egg against the Connecticut Sun there. So now they're looking for a rebound spot here against the Liberty. As you mentioned, a little tough for them. They are 8-2, but 3-7 against the spread. But one thing they do is they come out hot. So I really like this over 42 in the first quarter between these two, because the Dream have proven that they can run with teams as well. I think we'll get over that 42 pretty easily here. Lean to the over in the full game, but now it's already moved up to 166. Nothing on the side. I think that number 6.5 is correct. So first quarter for me with these two going over 42.
I'll just say this with the Liberty. And the Aces obviously are tremendous, and as we saw last night, Asia Wilson's probably going to win the MVP after not winning it a year ago when she probably deserved it. This Liberty team, we know, is loaded, and I think we've seen an improvement in Ionescu.
Yes.
Which, if Ionescu's going to bump up from about, Sabrina's probably last year's probably about 15th best player in the league, 12th best player in the league. If she bumps herself into the top 10 range, then that potential final between the Liberty and the Aces goes deeper and becomes a lot more interesting with a higher level Ionescu, who seemingly is on a higher level so far to begin this year.
Yeah, she has played very, very well for New York. I will just say, the Aces and the Liberty are very good. But Connecticut and Minnesota, the way they're playing, they could definitely give either of those teams a series, because they are playing slow. They're slowing it down. They're playing much better defense. So the Lynx beat the Sparks 86-62. I did like the Sparks team total under yesterday. That one was pretty easy there. The Aces, on the other hand, 95-81. Not playing as good of defense, just kind of playing that we'll outscore you mentality. So, of course, they can always flip it around. They have a great coach in Becky Hammond. But as of right now, I like how Connecticut and Minnesota is playing to really keep themselves in this top 4 in the WNBA.
Again, the Connecticut Sun will play the Liberty over the weekend. That'll be a big test. Again, Connecticut 9-0, the best defensive team in the W by a pretty significant margin at the moment. They will be tested because they will get the Liberty for the first time over the weekend, and they come to Vegas in 2 weeks. So we'll really see where they stack up against the two best teams. I know the record doesn't show, but the two best teams still by any accord at this point. And then the Lynx, look, Minnesota got pretty well blasted by the Aces in Minneapolis last week. So I think one of those for that, like maybe we have like, again, it's 8 teams now in the W. They played a ridiculous best of 3 series where the wrong team has home court advantage in game 3 right now.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out over the next few months. As we know, also remember, we're gonna have the Olympic break coming at the end of July as well this year. So
That's right.
A little bit different, where we get a whole month off and then they come back and play about 3.5 weeks on the back end after the Paris Olympics, which begin about 7 weeks from now. Be handicapping those games. The Team USA laying about 70 points in a bunch of these games over in Paris. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we get back, Kenny White is going to join us. We're going to look at some college baseball and wherever else we may go with Kenny. On the other side, Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
From the South Point Studio, the perfect blend of sports,
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
comedy,
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee
I am beautiful, and a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Join Ryan McCormick,
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Oreo.
and host Frank Nicotero.
I look at the clock, I go,
Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White is here. And Alex, I'll let you introduce our next guest.
Well, before we get to our guest, we want to give a shout out to everybody who is watching us live and playing. Oasis here in Las Vegas, Steiner's, of course, in Fuego, in Henderson, and then a pizza place in Pittsburgh that I always forget the name of, Jeff.
Oh, of course, our old friends at Dom's Pizzeria in Trafford, Pennsylvania. Come on, the old stomping grounds of our good friend Jimmy Vaccaro. We haven't seen in a while here. We're on too early for Jimmy. I think that's all that is now, right, Alex?
You're right. He has not stopped in to see us in quite some time. So, Jimmy, if you're watching, you owe us a visit.
We miss you, Jimmy. We miss you for sure.
But next up, we're really going to get some picks for college baseball. He's been following it all year long and for a couple years now. Wise guy, former odds maker for 30 years here in Las Vegas, professional sports bettor Kenny White.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Is that a golf?
Great. How are you doing?
Was that a golf clap I saw over there?
I've been doing a lot of golf claps lately.
Kenny,
They reset that camera a little bit.
Yeah, there we go.
Cutting my head off.
Nah, you're good right there. You're good right there, Kenny. And
I was scrambling today, cleaned my office up 2 weeks ago to get the old office clean for spring cleaning, and I didn't really hook anything up. And this morning I walk in and I was like, whoa, what am I going to do? I don't have a camera, I don't have a laptop, nothing. I had to put everything back together again. And then when I went to start the computer, it said no camera. I'm like, oh no. I'm looking on my laptop for the settings for the camera, and then it said it's not plugged in, dummy. So I just had to go plug it in, and here I am. I made it.
Now you're here. You look good. The background looks good. Everything looks good there, Kenny. So let's go. Let's get to it. Let's just start off here. College World Series, the super regional portion of it. So the winners of these best of 3 series will advance to Omaha, which of course the actual World Series begins next week in Middle America. Kenny, let's start with the first one. Let's start in Tallahassee. Florida State, nationally ranked, took care of business in their own regional. Connecticut, second straight year in a super regional for the Huskies. They went to Norman, a pretty competitive one on paper, took care of Duke, took care of nationally ranked Oklahoma. And here the Huskies are in the super regional yet again, taking on Florida State. Kenny, series price, Florida State is a minus 300 favorite, UConn plus 240. And then for game one, I'm seeing right now, one book has it up with Florida State as a minus 330 favorite for just game one right now.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm kicking myself that I don't have a ticket on the Huskies to win the World Series. They probably won't get by this round, but I could have gotten them at 300-1, I think, at one point. They started this season extremely slow, but this is one of the best baseball coaches in the country, Jim Penders, at Connecticut. He is by far and away, I think he's the best coach in college baseball. How do you get players in the Northeast? It's impossible. If you're a baseball player, you're going to the South. You're not going to stay in the Northeast. But this guy has a great program year in and year out. And again, as I said, they started really slow. They may not have been the best team in the Big East. And they found their way into the tournament. I have no idea how they got in the tournament. I really don't. But he's got 3 good starters, nothing great. He's got a decent offensive team, but they know how to win baseball games, and they're going to be in this game one. Florida State's got the way better offense. They got the better starter. But again, Connecticut's going to be in the game, and they're going to be in the series. They'll make a series of this. They may lose, go down 0-2 and take have a barbecue there in Tallahassee, but both games will be close. I can promise you that.
Is there, and if you think of a total that you'll be looking out for, so like if that one, you'd be looking more for an over, let us know as well. I know we don't have those out just yet, but let's go to Charlottesville here. Kansas State Wildcats taking on Virginia, who finished the year 44-15. Kansas State is plus 235, Virginia minus 290 on the series price.
Yeah, another darling, Kansas State. Coaching is it's such a big deal. And most of the time it's recruiting and you bring in players. Guys that Kansas State, Pete Hughes is a program builder. He was at Boston College. He built that program up. He went to Virginia Tech. He built that program up. He gets a job at Oklahoma, and he improved that team in 5 years, but they let him go because they didn't think he was doing well enough. But now he lands at Kansas State, and he's kind of getting his revenge. Here he is in a super regional. He's got a really good hitting team. I really think out of the 8 series, this is the most competitive. Flip a coin, whoever's going to win this. So, I'm all over Kansas State. I think Virginia is going to be a big favorite. I haven't seen the numbers. You can tell me what they are, but the pitching is equal. The hitting is equal. Home field in college baseball. Vinny asked us that last week, and it was a great question because home field in Major League Baseball is anywhere from 0 to about 10 cents, maybe 15 cents on the best teams in September when they got sellout crowds. And those dome stadiums, Houston and Seattle and Milwaukee, when they get really loud, that can be worth 15 cents to the betting line. College baseball, these home fields are worth about 40 cents. I think it's because these kids are amateurs and it's a little bit more difficult for their travel. But that's the only advantage the Wahoos have here is their home field. Other than that, Kansas State's going to battle them right down to the wire. I think Kansas State will win the series.
Plus 235 seemingly is the best
that's
price.
That's it?
Yeah,
Jeff, that's it? That's all you're going to give me?
Yeah, that seems to be the best price I'm seeing right now on the Purple Cats. So obviously
jump on it. Go jump on it right now.
Okay.
That'll come down and that'll be a nice payoff, plus 235.
Yeah, that's Superbook right now. That's the best number that I'm seeing out there on the Purple Cats of Kansas State to pull the upset against Virginia. All right, this is the David versus Goliath series left on the in these super regionals. Kenny, the only 4 seed to advance was the Evansville Purple Aces. They get through Greenville. They pull multiple upsets. Their reward is they get the number 1 seed in the tournament, Tennessee, in Knoxville. We saw Tennessee a few years ago as the number 1 overall seed. I know it's a different circumstances. That Notre Dame team was really good that went to Knoxville, knocked them out a few years ago. Now Tennessee is a $9 favorite to win this series right now, Kenny, against Evansville. Take back on that on the Purple Aces is about $6 plus 580. Is there any rationale at all to taking a big shot with the Purple Aces? Because it is, in the end, it is still baseball here.
Jeff, great point. It's baseball, and in any given day, the weaker team in Evansville can beat the better team here in Tennessee. They're not going to be intimidated. They just played a really good East Carolina team on their home field. I thought East Carolina was one of the top 10 teams in the country because their pitching was loaded, and they've got a really solid team. Tennessee, though, is a different animal. They are the best offensive team in the country, and they have the deepest pitching staff. Tennessee has 6 pitchers that would be the number 1 on Evansville by far, not even close. And that's the top 6 that I looked at. They probably have 10 guys that would be the number 1 for Evansville. So it is a complete mismatch, but it's baseball. You could hit 10 line drives right at somebody in a baseball game and not get a hit. And the other team can gork here, a blooper here, a Texas ligger, and a seeing eye ground ball. And all of a sudden it's 2-0 Evansville in the 8th inning, and things get really tight in Tennessee. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure there if Evansville can keep it close. I can't see Evansville winning a game. I think Tennessee wins both, but I will not lay it because, like I said, and you said, baseball is a strange game. Anything can happen. So I'll be more interested in looking at the totals in this game and maybe even individual team totals if somebody puts them up.
Last series that is starting tomorrow, we're going to Chapel Hill. North Carolina knocked out the defending champions LSU, and they will be hosting West Virginia. The Tar Heels minus 310 on the series price. If you like West Virginia, plus 250.
Yeah, when I talked about, I'm going to jump back to Kansas State and Virginia. I didn't mention that Virginia lost 2 of their top pitchers earlier in the year. Jack O'Connor, their number 1 guy, a left-hander that's going to be a Major League Baseball pitcher. He got injured and he's out. But I mentioned that because North Carolina's in the same boat. They lost 2 starting pitchers. They're 1 and 2 guys earlier in the year. So they've had to both those teams have had to reload. They've got plenty of talent, so they've had guys that step up, but it makes their pitching staff just a little weaker in depth-wise and not quite as strong. So West Virginia is healthy. They've got a good baseball team. They got a really good offensive club. There's another series that I think is a series that West Virginia can hang around and have a chance to win this thing. It's baseball. another big price, Jeff. I'm sure you're going to give me plus 240 maybe.
Yep.
On the Mountaineers here in this one. I think they keep it close and have a shot to win the series.
Yeah, plus 250 actually on the boys from Morgantown. West Virginia was awfully impressive, just really steamrolling through the Tucson Regional as the 3 seed, and here they are with a live shot to take out a nationally ranked number 4 overall seed, the Tar Heels on that. All right, going to the ones that are starting on Saturday, Kenny. NC State handled their business in their own regional there in Raleigh, did what they needed to do, get through. Now they go to Georgia, obviously an incredible offense down there in Athens, as we've known all year long. Right now, the Georgia Bulldogs in this series are minus 145 favorites, plus 125 on the take-back on the Wolfpack. Kenny, the question I have, as it is with this Georgia team, is how does the pitching hold up to go along with that elite offense that they carry?
Yeah, you're right, Jeff. They're all about offense. Some of the best hitters in the country. I mentioned I had Tennessee, the highest offensive team in the country. Georgia's number 2, and they're right there. I mean, I can make an argument that maybe Georgia is better. They play in a little better offensive park than Tennessee does. Pitching is going to be the question mark. NC State has the pitching. They have the bullpen that is almost as good, and they have the defense is just as good. So I think bullpen and defense is even in this series. It's going to be all about the offense. And I do have Georgia about $1.80 favorite offensively over NC State. So it'll all come down to the pitching matchups in this series between the two. I think Georgia gets it done. They did it under a pressure situation against Georgia Tech, their biggest rival. Looked like they were going to lose the last game on Sunday. And they came up with 1 in the 8th, 2 in the 9th, I think, to tie it, or 1 in the 9th to tie it, and then they won it in extra innings. They might have had an 8th game to win that thing, but Georgia's the better offensive team. North Carolina State will give them a battle, but this is a series I'll probably look. Hopefully the weather will be good. It is getting warm all over the country. This could be a series that we have some good over games in.
Number 6 ranked nationally, Clemson Tigers are going to host the Florida Gators. A little bit closer here on the series price. Florida plus 160 dog.
Yeah, it's amazing when teams are not supposed to be in the tournament and they get in, and the selection committee awards them. Florida was awarded because they're an SEC team, but they were the runner-up to the national champs last year, LSU. They got the best two-way player in the country back, first baseman, pitcher Jack Cagliano, something like that, close to it. Nice Italian kid. Really good player, great hitter, a little above average pitcher, but he's their number 1 guy, and they usually go with him in the second day of the tournament. Their number 1 guy, Jamie Peterson, struggled all year long, got a little bit better at the end of the year, and did pitch well in the regional. So Florida, I don't think they should have been in the tournament the way they played all year. I think people were talking about that, and they played some really good baseball to get out and win their regional, and now here they are fighting Clemson. So 2 teams that probably shouldn't have got in, Connecticut and Florida, both won a regional, and here they are in a super regional battling to get in the College World Series. Clemson is a solid pitching team. I think pitching is their forte. They have one of the best bullpens in the country. So if Clemson can get the lead here at home, they probably win this regional. I would look for runs because, again, Florida's a better offensive team than they are a pitching team right now because they've had some injuries and they've had some guys that have not pitched as well as they should have. They have no legitimate ace on this rotation. Again, I would take Tennessee's 6 starting pitchers over anyone on Florida. All 6 would be the ace for the Florida Gators. So their pitching's not that good. I think Clemson will get this done on their home field here.
Kenny, the only other series, we mentioned NC State and Georgia, the only other series that has 2 seeded teams, that's 1 through 16 for folks who are not used to the College World Series, College NCAA tournament for baseball seeding, and that's number 2 Kentucky, and they got a pretty tough draw here, all things considered, drawing Oregon State, who was number 15, was thought to be a little underseeded, And here they are going to Lexington, and the price dictates that this is not your normal 2 versus 15. Minus 135 on Kentucky, plus 115 on Oregon State. This is a very tightly priced series, and it actually is the tightest price series on the board right now.
Yeah, and it should be. Oregon State's a really good baseball team. The Pac-12 seemed like they were having a good season, very solid teams. Went to the conference tournament, and there was not a lot of offense. So Arizona really struggled in their regional after that conference tournament. Oregon State are two really good schools that pitch, play defense, and they can put runs on the board, but they play in pitchers' ballparks. This is a solid offensive team, though, Oregon State. I'm expecting them to step up. Kentucky will have the advantage in pitching. They have the advantage in the bullpen, and that's what usually wins baseball games. So I'll say Kentucky comes out on top, but I think that price is just about right at $1.35. But it won't surprise me. It will not surprise me if Oregon State does win the series because, again, they are the far better offensive team between these two, and they do have enough starting pitching to hang around and keep this series close. But Kentucky has the advantage in the bullpen, and they have the advantage defensively.
Last series we have to go through, and I'm curious on Texas A&M and where they rank in your offensive ranking here. They're minus 450 hosting the Oregon Ducks.
Yeah, they are very well coached. Jim Schlossnagle, former UNLV guy, was here for 2 or 3 years and did a great job for the Rebels and ended up going to TCU. He built the TCU program back up, and now here he is at Texas A&M and has a powerhouse. And Jim Schlossnagle is going to win a couple of College World Series because he's got a lot of support down there in College Station. They were already a good program before he stepped in, so he's just made it better. It's a shame, last year we had Paul Skeens. This year, Hagen Smith was the best pitcher in college baseball for Arkansas, and his numbers were better than Paul Skeens' numbers were last year. That's how good Hagen Smith is. He's a lefty that throws 90. He lives at 99. 99, a left-hander. He will be the first pitcher picked in the draft this year, Hagen Smith. But the number 2 pitcher picked in the draft this year, and maybe the number 2 overall selection, will be Ryan Prager from Texas A&M. He's another lefty that's got great stuff. He can run the fastball up 94, 95, but his slider and curveball are really unhittable pitches. He's backed up by Tanner Jones and Justin Lampkin. That's the best 1-2-3 duo that we have left in college baseball. Texas A&M's offense stacks right up there with any of the top 5 in baseball that I've talked about, Tennessee and Georgia. But Florida State's an offensive team. I mentioned Oregon State offensively, but put Texas A&M right there. Those 5 are the top 5 left. But top 3 starting pitchers, A&M. Bullpen, top bullpen in college baseball, A&M. One of the top defenses in college baseball, A&M. Tennessee has the depth in pitching and more depth. So I think it comes down to those two. I think Tennessee plays Texas A&M for the College World Series. That's the battle between those two. It's a shame. Oregon's a really good team, but they can't beat Texas A&M. A&M's too good, too disciplined. And again, they have the advantage in pitching, defense, and their offense. So I think A&M wins this series, but I'm not going to lay a big price on them. I may bet them individually game to game.
Kenny, before we let you go, we have to ask about tonight. The game 1, we've only been waiting a week for the Mavs and the Celtics to get rolling on the NBA side. Total's been bet up 1.5 over the week for game 1 up to 216. There's 6.5. Boston laying it. Celtics about a minus 220 price on the series price. Just throwing it all out there. What has caught your eye in this series, whether it's something for tonight, whether it's for the full series?
Well, if anybody knows me, I love unders. There's so much more value betting games under, but in these series, most of the time, game 1 and game 2 are pretty high scoring, and then the defenses start to make those adjustments they need. The games start to get closer, and the series, it slows down. The pace slows down. I think this could be a frantic pace. As long as they shoot well, I know they've been off a long time, and that does hurt, I think, offense continuity or shooting, but these guys shoot every day. I think you could get a very high scoring first quarter. I think you could get 70 in the first. I know the total is way lower than that. I think it could go flying over. You just have too many offensive stars on both teams. Kyrie Irving, I'm sure is going to be a sexy play for everyone to go over. And if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan and same game parlay, the only way that they win is Kyrie Irving comes back and has revenge on the Celtics. You know he doesn't like them. You know he's going to get booed. When the Mavericks win, it's usually because Kyrie plays well. When he plays poorly, they usually lose the basketball game. But I think he's going to play really well. I think he's going to have a big game here in Game 1. He had 30 points, I think, in 3 playoff games in the last series. I think his total is 23.5. So the Celtics, I told you in January, were the best team in the NBA. They're going to get Porzingis back. But I think that hurts Game 1 because trying to get him and fit him back in the rotation be a little bit more difficult than they think. He's probably going to be going 55 on a 70-mile-an-hour freeway, and he'll be a step slow in Game 1. He'll pick it up in Game 2. But I think Dallas can be in Game 1, and Dallas has a shot to pull off the upset here. So I think there's some same-game parlay opportunities for you with the Mavericks plus the points. Game over, Kyrie over, and maybe even Doncic over and a Doncic triple-double. Throw all those in one same-game parlay.
And I like that first quarter over. Kind of goes like with my WNBA over for the night in that first quarter. Let's go to the ice really quick. I want your thoughts on this series. Edmonton Oilers, we have a Canadian team that has made it back to the finals here, and Florida is hosting. They are a $1.35 favorite in this series.
Yeah, I'm gonna bet this series kind of the zigzag theory. First game, I think, is right there on the number. So playing the teams and betting on these teams, I will kind of go zigzag. I think it could be, win one, lose one, win one, lose one. For the totals, both these teams can really score. Edmonton at home is where I'm going to bet this over. I'm going to bet Game 1 over 5.5. And again, I love unders, but we've got 2 really good offensive teams, especially Edmonton. But it's the Oilers at home, and it's that home ice. That is the best ice in hockey. You don't get the puck wobbling. You get cleaner passes. You get better shots on goal. So I think Game 1 and Game 2 both go over, but that's going to hurt us into Game 3 because the total is going to be adjusted. It'll be 6, but I think they could get 7, and I'll be looking for first periods over in all 3 of the first 3 or 4 games.
Should be a fun series. We also have to wait a week for that one. That doesn't get going for another 2 days down there in South Florida. The furthest distance between the 2 teams in Stanley Cup final history. It'll be a lot of fun beat writers having to travel from South Florida to Edmonton over that entire series. He's Kenny White, of course, professional sports bettor, behind the counter for years and years here in the city of Las Vegas. KennyWhiteSports.com, KWhitey Vegas on Twitter as well. Kenny, pleasure as always. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Jeff and Alex, thanks. Love the show. So keep up the great work, and I will talk to you guys soon.
Appreciate it as
Thank
always.
you.
Kenny White here on the show. All right, Alex, you know what? We only have a few minutes left. Let's roll through your bets that you made here today, yet again for everyone, because there was some W action. We haven't mentioned any baseball. So if you have any Major League Baseball on the card today, a shorter card here on a Thursday, feel free. If you don't, I have one that we can get after your W picks.
Okay, perfect. I don't have any MLB tonight, but I am, and I want to recap. So he did like Kansas State series price, right? And West Virginia.
Yeah, Kansas
North
State.
Carolina.
Kansas State was his favorite. And then especially at the price available at the Superbook right now.
Yes.
And then West Virginia was another live dog as well.
Okay, very good. And then WNBA for me, I like first quarter over 42 for Liberty and Dream. I took the 4.5 with the Washington Mystics. It has moved to 2.5. I like in-game getting a better number. And I like the under in that game, under 155 it is. I believe you can get some places. And then NBA, I am on the over, but that is I got 214.5.
Would not do it at 216, correct?
Yeah.
All right.
I might look at the first quarter.
Maybe first quarter.
my dad said.
Look in game as well, potentially, if the situation is correct. All right. First off, the Yankees go for the sweep of the Twins today.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Don't love Stroman, but The Yankees, as we've talked about on this program, just own the soul of the Minnesota Twins. Minus 135. That is down from an overnight price of minus 150 at the peak. I think minus 135 is pretty good. Pablo Lopez has pitched a lot better over the last few weeks. But in the end here, this is a good spot yet again. We'll take the Yanks to sweep. Minus 135 at home. This is a 7 o'clock Eastern game for that one. I would be on the Yankees yet again. Just honestly, this should just be a rollover at this point. Just keep betting the Yankees beat the Twins every single time until further notice.
Ryan McCormick has actually been on this as well. He gave out Yankees run line the last 2 days on Punchlines.
He gave it out yesterday, gave it out 2 days ago, and I was there as well. By the way, real quick, the White Sox, if they lose tonight at home against the Red Sox, and Tanner Houck, of course, not a good draw for the White Sox, is going for Boston. It will be the longest losing streak in the history of the White Sox franchise. The last time they had a losing streak this long, 13 games, 100 years ago.
Wow.
Not good. Not good. Ryan McCormick is here. He'll be on Punchlines as well. He's always on Punchlines.
Yep.
He's taking lessons from Caden on his hairstyle right now.
You all messed up or what?
Yeah, a little bit of lettuce there for our guy McCormick. What do we got? I know I'm there, but we have a big time guest coming on the show today.
Yeah, and that would be Jeff Parles. We actually have a 1994 Stanley Cup champion, 16-year NHL vet coming on to preview the Stanley Cup Finals, as well as a horse racing analyst for NBC to preview the Belmont Stakes, which is going to be at Saratoga this weekend. Eddie Olczyk joins the show. So tune in at noon for Frank, Jeff, myself, and Eddie O.
Yes, excited to see Eddie O. Excited to see Frank, as always. It's going to be a very important discussion point on the show, Ryan. Something I sent you during a commercial break here today. I'm very curious to what Frank has to say of what people in London, because, again, we have a series in London this weekend in baseball. What possibly could the Londoners think of the Philly Fanatic?
Yeah.
See this giant green thing with the tongue sticking out at times? I like, what is this? What did the Americans bring over here this time?
Yeah.
I'm curious what Frank's reaction to that, even though Frank did have a response that makes also sense. Because if we sent Gritty over there, forget it. It would be potentially a big situation between the U.S. and England at that point. But that's coming at noon, as always. You're on tomorrow with Frank. So
yes, I am.
You got Sports by the Book flavor the rest of the week.
And you'll have Belmont picks for us tomorrow after you guys discuss it for Punchlines?
Hold on. This was news to me. You don't want my horse racing picks. You know that horse is going to. Actually, you know what?
Well,
maybe you do want it because you know who not to bet on the big horse race at that point. Sierra Leone is running in Belmont.
Correct.
So Sierra Leone, if he didn't get jammed to the side in Louisville, I still think he would have caught Mystic Dan at the end. I think Sierra Leone's going to win on Saturday, which means bet everyone but Sierra Leone on Sunday at Saratoga for the Belmont Stakes this week, Alex White.
Well, you'll have to find out. Well, and everybody who's watching now, make sure and watch Punchlines because it should be a great show. And you guys will talk about that plenty.
Yeah, Eddie O, as good of a guest as we can get on these shows. Coming up 12:30 is the exact time for Eddie O. 12:30 here on the South Point Studio Stream. And also, Ryan, just give me a thumbs up if I have this right. Punchlines now with its own YouTube page as well. So you can check it out there if you want to look there. And if you want to pull a Keith Lyle, you can be in both chats. I hope Joey B is in the chat today and gives me more lines I can bet and make more money off of him, hypothetically, as well. Alex, always fun. We're back tomorrow. Friday edition. Be good. Plenty to get to. We'll have reaction to game one on the NBA side, some baseball bets, and plenty more on the show tomorrow because we have Dwayne Colucci and we have Vegas Maddie. Very good, guys. We have two guests tomorrow in that back end half hour. Sound good?
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. And we'll, of course, get to more hockey leading into Saturday's first game.
I think Colucci will have some thoughts on that hockey series. Just a tad of thoughts for our guy, Dwayne Colucci, tomorrow. Good job there, Sean. Caden, Sean, good work. Where's Jerry? Where's Jerry? Jerry downstairs?
He's working.
He's in the basement. Jerry, if you're watching us, thank you as always for everything you do. Ryan McCormick, getting you ready for Punchlines coming in 2 hours. I'm Jeff Parles. She's Alex White. See you then tomorrow. Sports by the Book, 9 a.m. here at the South Point Studio.